When a brother breaks his sister's trust, he doesn't just steal money, he destroys the bond. Tell me, should a brother ever do this to his own sister? My name is Sarah Miller. I'm 30 years old and I live in a quiet neighborhood in Austin, Texas, where the streets are lined with live oaks that whisper in the evening breeze, and the houses have porches that invite lazy afternoons. Until last year, I truly believed one thing. A brother is supposed to protect his sister. I held on to that like a lifeline, through all the ups and downs of our shared history. But I was wrong. Dead wrong. And the day I learned that truth, it shattered me in ways I'm still piecing back together. Let me take you back to that fateful evening, 2 hours before everything collapsed. I was sitting at my dining table barefoot, still wearing my faded blue work cardigan that smelled faintly of the office coffee machine. The room was dimly lit by the warm glow of a single lamp, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. My laptop was open in front of me, but I wasn't working anymore. The screen displayed a spreadsheet of numbers that blurred into insignificance. Instead, I was staring at a half-cold cup of chamomile tea, the steam long gone, leaving behind a ring of residue on the mug. My phone lay beside it, screen dark but always within reach. Not because I was worried, far from it. It was just habit. A mindless scroll through notifications, a quick check of emails. That habit, as innocuous as it seemed, saved me. And it also peeled back the layers to reveal who my brother really was. Before I dive deeper, let me ask you something. If your own brother took food from your child's mouth, stripped away the security you'd built brick by brick, would you forgive him just because he's family? Because that's the question I had to answer, and it haunted me for months. I'm not a cybersecurity analyst or some high-tech sleuth from a thriller novel. My job is far more mundane. I work as a financial compliance auditor for a mid-sized firm downtown. It's not glamorous, no one brags about it at parties. My days are spent poring over ledgers, checking transactions for red flags, looking for patterns that could signal fraud or errors before they escalate into full-blown crimes. It's simple but serious work, requiring patience and an eye for detail. Ironically, I never imagined I'd have to turn those skills inward, investigating my own family. But life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. As a single mother, my world revolves around my daughter Lily. She's 10 years old now, with a mop of curly brown hair that she inherited from her father, and eyes that sparkle with curiosity. She's stubborn as a mule, kind to a fault, and way too smart for her own good, always asking questions that force me to think twice. Her father, Mark, left when she was 3. No dramatic showdowns, no bitter court battles over custody. He just packed a bag one night and vanished, leaving behind a note that said, "I'm not cut out for this." I didn't chase him. What was the point? After that, it was just me and Lily against the world. Or so I thought. My brother Jake Miller was part of that equation too, at least in my mind. Jake is 3 years younger than me, making him 33 now. Growing up in a modest suburb outside Dallas, we were thick as thieves. Our parents worked long hours, Dad at a factory, Mom as a nurse, so I often played the role of mini-parent to Jake. I protected him from bullies at school, covered for him when he skipped classes, shared my lunch when he forgot his, and even lied to our parents about his whereabouts on those rebellious teenage nights. When Mom passed away from cancer 8 years ago, Jake crumbled. He cried on my shoulder for hours, his body shaking with sobs. I held him together just like I always had. Dad followed her 2 years later, a heart attack that came out of nowhere, leaving us orphans in our adulthood. In the years since, Jake's life has been a roller coaster. He bounced from job to job, bartender, salesman, delivery driver, never sticking with anything long enough to build stability. When he lost his apartment 5 years ago, teetering on the edge of eviction, I stepped in without hesitation. I added him as an authorized contact on one of my financial accounts. Not full ownership, not control, just access in case of emergencies. Seemed harmless at the time. Why would I ever remove him? He was my brother, my blood. Family doesn't betray family, right? That night, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the neighborhood quieted, my phone buzzed. Once, twice, then a flurry of notifications. Bank alerts, one after another, lighting up the screen like fireworks. At first, I laughed quietly to myself, shaking my head. Great, I muttered under my breath. Another app glitch. Just what I need after a long day. I picked up the phone. thumbing open the banking app with casual indifference. But as the balances loaded, my stomach dropped like a stone in a well. Checking account $0. Savings $0. Emergency fund $0. Lily's education account $0. The world tilted. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just froze, my fingers hovering over the screen as if touching it again would make it real. The transfers weren't haphazard or frantic. They were clean, organized, intentional. Precise amounts moved in sequence, like a well-rehearsed dance. And worst of all, they were executed from a recognized device. I didn't need to check the logs to know whose it was. Jake's. The brother I'd trusted implicitly had wiped me out. Mom, what's wrong? The voice was small, tentative, coming from behind me. Small footsteps padded across the floor. Lily stood there in her favorite pajamas, the ones with the glowing stars, clutching her stuffed axolotl Mr. Squishy to her chest. Her eyes, wide and perceptive, flicked from my face to the phone in my hand. She didn't bombard me with questions right away. Kids have an uncanny sense for when something is truly bad. They absorb the tension like sponges. Mom, she whispered, stepping closer. Are we in trouble? That question shattered the dam inside me. Tears welled up, but I swallowed them down, forcing a smile that felt like glass. Before I could muster a response, she said something that stunned me into silence. Don't worry, she said, her voice steady despite her age. I already did something. Earlier that evening, while I'd been finishing up some work emails, Lily had borrowed my phone to play a game, one of those educational apps about animals that she loved. A notification had popped up. New device activity detected. She remembered a conversation we'd had months ago, when I'd explained the basics of online safety in simple terms. If something looks wrong with money, I'd told her, tell me immediately. But Lily, being the proactive soul she is, didn't just tell me. She opened the app herself, her little fingers navigating the interface with surprising deftness. She saw the money moving, large sums vanishing like smoke, and panicked. In a split-second decision, she hit the account hold button, freezing everything in its tracks. She didn't know the full extent of what she'd saved, but it was substantial. One massive transfer, the bulk of my emergency fund, was still pending, caught in limbo thanks to her quick thinking. My brother had almost taken everything, our rent money, grocery budget, Lily's future college savings. Almost. I pulled her into a hug so tight she squeaked in protest. You're squishing me, Mom, she complained, but she hugged back just as fiercely. Inside my chest something shifted. A tectonic plate of emotion grinding into a new position. This wasn't just theft. It wasn't a desperate act born of hard times. It was betrayal, pure and simple, from the one person I'd never suspected. I didn't call Jake that night. The anger bubbling inside me was too raw, too uncontrolled. Confronting him would have given him power, a chance to spin excuses or gaslight me into doubt. Instead, I did what my job had trained me to do. I documented everything. Screenshots of the transactions, timestamps, device IDs. I emailed copies to myself, backed them up on a cloud drive. And as I worked, a deeper realization crept in. This wasn't just about the money. Jake's actions felt too calculated, too seamless. What if this was part of something bigger? 2 days later, he called. The phone rang while I was folding laundry, the mundane task a feeble attempt to reclaim normalcy. I stared at the screen, his name flashing like a warning sign. My heart pounded, but I answered, keeping my voice steady. Sarah, he barked, no greeting, no preamble. What the hell did you do? No apology. No shame. Just anger, raw and accusatory. You ruined everything, he shouted, his voice cracking with frustration. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles white. Ruined what, Jake? You stole from me. From Lily. How could you? He laughed, a bitter, hollow sound that sent chills down my spine. Stole? Come on, sis. It was just borrowing. I was going to pay it back. You always help me out. That's what family does. Borrowing? You emptied every account. Lily's education fund gone. We could be homeless because of you. There was a pause, heavy and loaded. Then he said something that terrified me. You don't understand. I needed it for something important. A deal. It was supposed to be quick. But you froze it. Now they're after me. They? Who's they? He didn't answer directly. Instead, his tone shifted to threats. veiled but unmistakable. Just unfreeze it, Sarah, or things could get complicated. For both of us. The line went dead. I stood there, shaking, the room spinning. Jake wasn't desperate for survival money. He wasn't borrowing in a pinch. He was involved in something bigger, some scheme where he'd used my name, my spotless financial history, to bolster his own credibility. As a reference, a guarantor, a shield. And now with the freeze, his house of cards was crumbling. That night I didn't sleep. I barricaded the doors, checked the windows twice, and peeked into Lily's room every hour. She slept peacefully, oblivious to the storm brewing. But I couldn't shake the fear. Deep down I knew this wasn't over. And I asked myself a question I'd never dared to voice. Was I protecting my brother or enabling him? If I stayed silent, would that make me complicit in whatever mess he'd created next? Because here's the truth. My brother didn't just steal from me. He stole from my child. And that changes everything. A switch flipped inside me. No more excuses. No more blind loyalty. So tell me, should a sister protect her brother? Or protect her child first? Because the choice I made after that call changed our lives forever. And my brother never expected what happened next. 2 days after that call, I stopped thinking like a sister and started thinking like a mother. I took Lily to school that morning as if nothing had changed. The sun was shining, birds chirping in the trees lining the sidewalk. I smiled at the other parents dropping off their kids, waved cheerfully at Mrs. Hernandez, Lily's teacher, who stood at the gate with her clipboard. "Have a great day, sweetie," I said, planting a kiss on Lily's forehead. She skipped inside, backpack bouncing, disappearing into the throng of children. Only then, in the privacy of my car, did I let my hands shake on the steering wheel. Fear doesn't always manifest as panic attacks or hysterics. Sometimes it's a quiet tremor, a silent resolve to survive. Back home, the apartment felt smaller, the walls closing in. I brewed a fresh pot of coffee, the aroma filling the kitchen, and opened my laptop. It was time to do what I'd avoided for years, audit my own life. I started with the basics, tracing the transactions backward. Using my work credentials, ethically of course. I wasn't about to risk my job. I accessed public financial databases, cross-referenced account logs, and pulled device histories. It was painstaking work, hours blurring into one another as I sipped coffee that grew cold. What I uncovered made my blood run cold. Jake hadn't acted alone. The transfers led to offshore accounts, shadowy entities with names like Global Ventures LLC, that screamed money laundering. He'd been using my financial profile as a reference point for loans and deals, positioning himself as connected to someone stable, professional, trustworthy. Me. My clean credit history, my steady job had been his facade. He'd even forged documents in my name for small-time investments that funneled into larger schemes. It wasn't outright identity theft, not yet, but it was close. Close enough to implicate me if things went south. I felt sick, bile rising in my throat. How long had this been going on? Months? Years? Flashes of past conversations replayed in my mind. Jake casually asking about my work, probing for details on compliance checks. I thought it was brotherly interest. Now it felt like reconnaissance. That night, Lily sat at the kitchen table, coloring a picture of a fantastical creature. Half dragon, half unicorn, with intense focus. The crayons scraped against the paper, a soothing sound amid the chaos in my head. I stirred pasta on the stove, the steam rising like a veil. But she kept glancing up, her brow furrowed. Kids sense emotional undercurrents better than adults give them credit for. "Mom," she said softly, setting down her crayon. "Are we going to be okay?" I turned off the burner and knelt in front of her, eye to eye. Her face was so innocent, yet wise beyond her years. "Yes, baby," I said, brushing a curl from her forehead. "We are. But things are going to change a bit." She nodded, chewing her lip. "I don't want Uncle Jake to come here anymore." Her words hit like a punch. "Neither do I, sweetheart. Neither do I." We ate dinner in relative silence, the clink of forks the only sound. Afterward, as I tucked her into bed, she hugged Mr. Squishy tighter. "Good night, Mom. I love you." "I love you more," I whispered, lingering in the doorway until her breathing evened out. The next message came from an unknown number, pinging my phone as I washed dishes. "You should stop pushing this." That was it, no name, no context. Just a threat wrapped in casual advice. My hands trembled as I dried them, staring at the screen. Who was this? One of Jake's associates. I didn't reply. Instead, I screenshot it and forwarded it to a former colleague, Megan Ruiz, who'd left our firm 2 years ago to join a financial investigations unit with the state attorney's office. My phone rang within minutes. Sarah, Megan said, her voice sharp with concern. Tell me everything. I poured it out, the theft, the call, the discoveries. She listened without interrupting, then sighed. This isn't family drama anymore. This sounds like organized fraud. You need to protect yourself. She was right. What followed wasn't the fast-paced thriller of movies, with car chases and dramatic confrontations. It was slow, methodical, buried in paperwork and endless phone calls. Affidavits, bank statements, digital forensics reports. Emotionally, it was exhausting, like dragging a weight through mud. Jake, meanwhile, kept digging his hole deeper. He tried calling again multiple times a day. I let them go to voicemail. The messages started angry. You're being ridiculous, Sarah. Unfreeze it now. Then they softened, manipulative. Come on, sis. Remember when we were kids? You always had my back. Then back to anger. If you don't fix this, you'll regret it. At one point he said, you're overreacting. You always do. That stung more than any threat, echoing years of me minimizing his red flags to preserve our fragile peace. The late-night calls for bail money, the loans that were never repaid, the excuses for lost jobs. I'd enabled it all, blinded by love. One evening, as the Texas sun set in a blaze of orange, Lily and I curled up on the couch watching her favorite animated movie. She snuggled against me, popcorn bowl between us. Halfway through, she paused the TV. Mom, is Uncle Jake a bad guy now? I hesitated, searching for words. He's not a bad guy, honey. But he made some really bad choices. And bad choices have consequences. Even for adults? She asked, tilting her head. Especially for adults. We're supposed to know better. She pondered that, then nodded. Okay. Can we finish the movie? We did, but my mind wandered. A week later, the bank called with good news. The frozen transfer was reversed. Jake hadn't gotten everything. That sliver of victory fueled his desperation. He showed up at my apartment building one afternoon while I was at work. The doorman buzzed me, voice tense. A man saying he's your brother is here. He's insistent. I told him not to let Jake in. But then Lily's school called. Ms. Miller, a man claiming to be Lily's uncle, stopped by during recess. He asked about her schedule. We didn't release any info, but thought you should know. My blood turned to ice. That was the tipping point. Fear morphed into resolve, a fierce maternal instinct roaring to life. I left work early, picked up Lily myself, and drove straight to the police station. Giving that statement felt like ripping open an old wound, exposing raw nerves. I sat in a sterile interview room, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, recounting our childhood. Happy memories tainted now. The trust I'd placed in him. The access. The betrayal. Tears slipped down my cheeks once when the officer asked, "Did he know this would affect your child?" "Yes," I whispered. He knew. There was no excuse after that. No redemption arc. Jake was arrested 2 weeks later. Not in a blaze of glory, but quietly, at a motel on the outskirts of town where he'd been hiding. Financial fraud. Identity misuse. Attempted wire theft. Charges that could land him years behind bars. I saw his mugshot online, disheveled hair, hollow eyes. He didn't look like my brother anymore. He looked small, diminished. When he called from jail, collect, I didn't answer. The voicemail was pleading. "Sarah, please. You didn't have to do this. We're family." I deleted it without a second thought. Lily never asked to visit him. That silence spoke volumes. Life didn't snap back to perfect after that. The money trickled back slowly. Insurance claims, restitution hearings. Some losses were permanent, like the interest I'd never recover. But something intangible returned: peace. Trust in my own judgment. Strength I didn't know I had. Months later, on a crisp autumn evening, Lily was drawing at the table again. She held up her artwork proudly. A colorful house with a tall fence and a sturdy gate, surrounded by flowers. "What's that, sweetie?" I asked, smiling. "Boundaries," she said matter-of-factly. "So only good people can come in." I pulled her into a hug, tears pricking my eyes. Out of the mouths of babes. Now let me ask you something. If your brother betrayed you, threatened your child's future, forced you to choose between loyalty and survival, would you still call that family? Or would you finally choose yourself? Because family isn't defined by blood alone. It's about who stands by you, who doesn't hurt you when they have the power to. And sometimes the bravest thing a sister can do is walk away. Say no. Build those boundaries high. In the end, I chose Lily. I chose us. And for the first time in years, I feel free.